Hello, friends, and welcome back to Rejection Therapy. And we are back with another episode after quite a while. I was definitely away, plying my trade at the Etc. Throw series, and then off and on out of the state for the first time in a while. JD, how have you been, my man?
I've been great. Actually, it's been the best month of my life.
Ooh, that's awesome to hear. What changed to make it the best month of your life?
I'm totally joking, but I'm curious to
Oh.
hear about where you've been. You've been gone for a long time. I haven't seen you.
Yeah, dude. So I know that we had attempted to record an episode right before Etc. Throw series, and I managed to just completely punt the audio. So, following that being the case, we were like, hey, we're going to get back together into the studio and record something very quickly. That didn't happen because I was off to Dallas for Etc., as I said before. And then, big change up on my job front. I got called out, had to fly to New York, then back to Austin, and then the same day, fly all the way back to Boston, and then now I'm back in Austin once again. A lot of rhyming places there: Boston, Austin, Boston, Austin.
That's a lot. You're the busiest person I know by far.
I don't know about that. I spent a lot of my time in Boston under the throes of food poisoning, and I could not do a whole lot there to be productive.
Oh, that's not good. What is Boston like? I've been in that part of the country, but I've never actually been to Boston.
Cold and foggy is the impression I got when I was there. It was like 45 degrees in late April, which implies it's probably like, in the teens for the majority of the winter. And that's a little bit too much for me, even as someone who enjoys the cold and kind of misses it now that I'm in Texas.
Does Dunkin' Donuts taste better up there? Somebody told me that.
I didn't ever get the chance to spend a meal at Dunkin' Donuts, mostly because I spent 2 days throwing up my guts. And the days before that, I was trying to cram with as much seafood as possible.
Oh, what did you eat?
I think it was the fried clams that did me in, but I had a lot of clam chowder, fried clams, fish, all that kind of good stuff. And then my friends and I got together and we also cooked some really tasty meals, had some cheesecake. That was the other, I think, possible culprit for what did me in terms of the food poisoning. But overall, it was a really good gustatory adventure.
I love cheesecake. That's like one of my top five favorite desserts of all time.
Dude, because I didn't get to have that much of the cheesecake. I ate one slice and then after that immediately got sick the following night. I came back to Austin and I made a cheesecake today. It's a berry swirl cheesecake, delicious. Definitely come back up to Austin, man, so I could get you some.
Yeah, I want to try it. And also, I have some gifts I need to give you as well. Some nice yo-yo related things that have been generous, gen, you know, yeah. We've been
Donated.
lucky. We've been lucky to receive some really cool gifts from some really cool people. So, yeah, I'm excited to share them with you, and we can talk about them on an episode soon. Not this episode. What are we going to talk about today, Chris?
Well, we got a lot to go through. I had my experience at Etc. Throw series. So if you want to get a one-on-one personal Ask Me Anything with the person coming second to last place in the 1A division, I'm your guy. But beyond that, I know that all the way back in episode 2, which at this point is basically ancient history, we had mentioned how you hadn't necessarily been exposed to all these new yo-yo videos, especially like the high production ones that you see on YouTube these days. And so we did a little bit of a video swap a while ago, and I've been itching to reflect on those with you.
I'm down. All of that sounds great. Do you want to start with talking about ETC and tell us how
Yeah.
your experience was?
Oh, dude, it was great just being in the same room with other yo-yoers and experiencing what they're up to and seeing tricks up close and personal where you can kind of crane your head one way then the other. Both allows for you to like uptake more tricks as well as just vibe. Talk and shop about something so niche with others in person is a unique experience. It's one that I'm happy to kind of get with you, JD, but it's different between just talking one-on-one versus being a wash where you could go to anyone in the room and have a great chat.
That sounds awesome. Did you learn a lot of tricks while you were there?
I learned a few really cool 5A things. Shout out to, I believe his name is Zach. It's actually been a little bit since I checked back, but he's from, I believe, the Houston area, and he is part of the Average Throwers Club, I believe. And he taught me a pretty interesting kind of like a inverted GT where basically you ninja vanish and then you toss the counterweight under and you catch it with your arm coming over and then you could pop into a reverse GT from there. Really cool stuff, and another thing that's just inspiring me to do a little bit more 5A. Hey, 5A May is upon us actually.
5A May. Wait, is that what we're doing? Just everyone does 5A all May? Is that a thing?
Dude, I might, honestly. I actually impromptu decided to also compete in the X division because I had my 5A yo-yo and I was just thinking nobody in the X division was doing 5A and I thought, "Oh, I could just showcase it for people even if I do terribly." And did I come in dead last place out of 4 people? Absolutely I did. But I like to think I did a service to the community by doing a bit of 5A in front of everyone. And I did hit double beasting.
Oh, very nice. Okay, I know you're trying to get that one last time we were hanging out. So, what were people mostly competing with in the X division?
Well, so Peng was there actually. And what was really cool was that he did a demo for Diablo, but then also competed in 4A. And then on top of his regular 4A, I guess that he had one 4A yo-yo that was done up to do 1A. I think it was actually one that he showed us when he was at that jugglers meetup with us. But he put a counterweight on that and did impromptu 9A. It was very impressive.
Oh, yeah. Oh man, our friend Pang, he's ridiculous with Diablo. Or you know what's so interesting? I don't think any of them call it that. I mean, they know what I'm talking about when I say Diablo, but they all call it yo-yo, which is very interesting to me because I'm in a Discord with Pang and people will ask like, "Hey, you want a yo-yo?" And I thought that they meant, like our yo-yo, but then I
Mhm.
realized like all of them are not talking about that. They're actually talking about Diablo. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, we have a monopoly on the cooler and faster to say word because Diablo is a mouthful and nobody wants to say Chinese yo-yo.
Yeah.
So they're just going to say yo-yo. But like I said, we got first dibs on the word.
Yeah. So how did your actual your 1A freestyle go? Did you throw to Skrillex?
I didn't actually. So I had Epiphany on the last day, and I swapped to yo-yoing to Coil, and I wanted to do a very statementy freestyle, and that unfortunately went out the window when I biffed like 4 tricks in a row in finals. It was rough, man.
Wait, is there a video somewhere? Can I watch it?
So they did record it, but I haven't seen them online yet. So I guess this is a public call to the etc. guys. If you want to put that video up online for my embarrassment, that would be grand. Everybody would love to see it.
Yeah, don't be stingy with the vids. We want to see it.
Yeah, but so my prelims actually went surprisingly well. I did not come in second to last place. I think I came in like fourth to last, but I was relatively clean. I actually had a crazy recovery that even Owen from Wicked Throws remarked on afterwards, where I managed to do a like front style regen in a place where my yo-yo snagged really horribly. And I even managed to hit that double GT hop at the very end that got a nice little pop from the crowd.
Nice.
But then finals came and I just griefed it horrifically. I had a really good first trick where I hit it smoothly to my music cue, and then I had this little 10-second pause where I just didn't throw and it was in silence. Like I said, this was supposed to be statementy, but then after that, it was just me trying to get back on track with music cues, whiffing things constantly, and I didn't even get to end the freestyle the way I wanted to. I had a switch, and because I'm a contest noob, I forgot to make the slip knots on my replacement yo-yos. And so it was just the little tide loop. And I was trying to desperately pull the slip knot through with shaky hands with only like 20 seconds left in my freestyle. And that was really disastrously embarrassing, unfortunately.
Oh man. Yeah, I bet there's a bunch of little, small nuances like that that you would only know if you've competed before. Because I don't, I haven't thought about something like that because I've never competed. So that's good to, I'll take note of that.
Yeah, definitely. If I were to give 2 bits of advice for anybody who's competing for the first time, and it was virtually my first time, I memory hold all of 2017, and I was a very different person back then. But what I would say is one, make sure you wash your hands immediately before you go on stage and then dry them thoroughly because you need the soap to like seal in your sweat. Otherwise, you're going to start sweating halfway through your freestyle. Your fingers going to get caught on your strings and it's going to be a nightmare. And then on top of that, the other recommendation is make sure that you put those slip knots at the end of your yo-yos in case you have a switch out.
Do you have particularly sweaty hands?
I do, and what's weird is that I am typically not someone who's nervous on stage, and so I didn't think that my hands would be more sweaty than usual, and I can manage my usual hand sweat level if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I guess yo-yoing is just a whole different beast in regards to how nervous I felt because I've gone on stage, I've given big speeches in front of people, I do a lot of high pressure things in front of crowds, but yo-yoing just hit me in a way that very few other things did. The level of adrenaline I was operating on meant that my hands were basically like 2 faucets. It was rough, man.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Because I play bass guitar for a living essentially, and so I can, I've been on huge stages, I've been on small, all every size of stage, and it doesn't freak me out. I can play in front of any number of people, and it's, you know, like you, I don't really get nervous being on stage. But what's so interesting is that because I've only played electric guitar on stage like twice in my life, it scares me. Like I get so freaked out just switching the instrument. You know what I mean? It's so funny. It's I know what you mean. It's like you can be on a stage, but if you're not doing your normal thing that you do when you're on a stage, I think it can really like take you out of your element. You know what I mean? It's like almost like starting back from square one. At least for me, it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess as a third tip I would put on top of everything else is if there's some way that you could simulate a contest environment before you go up on stage and actually rip your freestyle in a contest, try to get that as one to one with what your future experience is going to be like beforehand. You really need to condition yourself to the idea that you're not going to be yo-yoing and throwing out tricks the way that you think you will be, or in front of friends as you may in the status quo. It really is different. No matter how much you think it is going to be the same, and you're just saying, hey, when I'm up there, I'm not going to be seeing the crowd. I'm just going to be focusing on my yo-yo and my tricks. There's something about that stage and that mental pressure that I did not experience before going up and trying to yo-yo, even to what was a relatively modest crowd. You know, Et Cetera isn't the biggest throw series or competition in the world or anything.
Yeah, well, yeah, I wonder how you could simulate that kind of, you know, like you say, like throwing under pressure like that. So yeah, if anyone has any good advice about that, I'd be curious to know.
You ask your crush out and then you put your phone away and put it on vibrate on the table, and then you hear vibrations while you're doing your freestyle, and that would be the equivalent of the pressure
Oh
that you'd be
man,
feeling on stage.
no, I'm not doing that no more, man. I did that too many, I've done that too many times throughout my life. I'm good on that. But also on the topic of sweat, have you ever thrown with a glove? And do you think that would be a good idea for next time you compete?
It's tough because I have thrown with a glove a little bit. I was doing it when I was really first getting into 5A just because those rolls, those 360s, and those beastings were messing my fingers up in a way that wasn't the case when I do 1A. But I don't know, man. It would mitigate the sweat on stage for sure, but then it introduces a whole different level where, unless I'm doing a lot of work up to the point at which I'm competing with a glove, it's just not part of my daily routine. And I think I've said it before, even on the pod, but I hate the idea of busting a glove out when yo-yoing is something that so naturally fits in all the little contours of my life. And when I'm yo-yoing while waiting to get groceries or something like that, or I'm at the pharmacy, I don't want to have to get the glove out on top of everything else and make it even more of a spectacle where I feel like more people would come up to me and say, oh my gosh, he's got the glove on. That's crazy, bro. That kind of stuff.
Wait, do you throw when you're waiting in line somewhere?
If I have enough space, I'm not going to do it if I think I'm going to box somebody on the head, but I will yo-yo while waiting in line as long as I am able to find the space and people are patient about it.
Wow. And do you have a lot of people like come up to you and like talk to you?
I do. That is the one issue with it. For instance, when I was in security at the airport, I was throwing, and you know how it's a switchback queue where you zigzag back and forth, and so you're kind of standing shoulder to shoulder with the person that is on the other side of the rope. There would be a lot of people who'd be watching me while I'm there, and they would stick their head over and talk to me about yo-yoing. And most of the time, it's fine. Some of the times, it is, and I've noticed it's specifically like 20 something ex frat bros that are just very, I guess, belligerent about it. And their interaction is always something along the lines of, bro, that's so sick, man. Oh my God, look what this guy's doing. And they're like patting their friend on the shoulder or something. That just feels like I don't want to be ostentatious with what I'm doing. That's why I have yo-yos that I have specifically lubed a little bit quieter so that I don't make too much of a ruckus, because I'm really ultimately just doing it for myself, trying to practice a new trick or develop something. And when other people are interacting with me in a way that then brings more attention to me, I get really mortified. But also, I'm addicted and I can't quit yo-yoing even in public.
So your addiction level to yo-yoing is greater than you wanting to avoid having people engage with you about yo-yoing
Yeah,
in your public.
exactly. And I do think, like I said, there are little happy engagements that I do have that also balances out that equation where if somebody says, oh, I remember yo-yoing back when I was in high school or something, and reminiscing with somebody, that's nice. Or if I can inspire one kid who sees me out in public to yo-yo, that's a contribution to the community, in my opinion.
Have you ever done the Kieran Cooper where you look at them and you're like, it's not a yo-yo, and you just continue?
Hey, a little preview of the videos that we're going to be talking about here in a bit.
Yeah.
No, I have not done that. I will do the thing in the other Kieran Cooper video. I don't know if you've seen his shorter video, but he's talking with this girl that he was just on a date with, and she asks, "So do you play sports?" And he says, I yo-yo," and he just throws the yo-yo down, and it's spinning at the end of the string, and he just says, it doesn't come back up, and that's it. I am a little bit in that camp where I will explain that or the basic mechanics of binding to people, but most of the time their eyes glaze over about halfway through that explanation.
Yeah, see, you're much more like courageous in my eyes. I do not really like to yo-yo in public anymore. I think when I was like a teenager, I didn't care as much, but I don't know. It's like now I really, I prefer to circumvent those, like you said, those kind of uncomfortable, obnoxious interactions with frat bros or dudes. I don't know. It's
Mhm.
like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I know I shouldn't care as much, but usually like I'll throw in public if it's like a more secluded area. There's, like not really anyone looking at me or anyone that's
Mhm.
gonna hear me or see me. I don't know. But yeah, I know I probably shouldn't care that much, but I don't know. Yeah. I think I like to, it's such a personal hobby and passion of mine. And I kind of like to keep it now. I don't know. I don't want to say it like a keep it more sacred because that's not really the point. But I think maybe you can kind of piece together what I'm trying to say. Like it has such a personal thing to me. I like having it in this like personal bubble where maybe like I'm just like one of my favorite spaces to throw is like in my room listening to music. Do you know what I mean? And I can just like get in this zone where I'm just flowing or or even like making up some new stuff, and that's kind of like the headspace I like to. And so it's harder for me to get to that space, I think, when I'm in public, and especially
Mhm.
because I guess what I'm trying to reveal is that I guess I am kind of self-conscious about people watching me yo-yo. So I'm not going to have as pleasant an experience throwing in public because I'm going to be kind of too worried about like what people are thinking or perceiving by like watching me or something. You know what I mean? But I will say, if I'm with you or anyone else we know it throws, then that goes totally out the window. I think I don't know. I'm very much I'm naturally very introverted. So for me, being in a group, if we're all kind of throwers, I'm totally cool. Then I don't care as much, right? Like I don't care at all because we're all throwing together, and like now it's like who cares? Now there's power in numbers. So I don't know. So yeah,
I feel like this is spoken like a true bass player, not wanting to take center stage or anything
is
like one
it?
of those guitarists.
I don't know. It's so funny. Like I mentioned, I've played guitar a few times on stage. One of those
Mhm.
times I was on stage playing guitar, I was kind of front and center, and I felt like I was like wielding all the power because everybody was looking at me and they were like listening and watching what I was doing, and I was like, oh, like this is what it feels like to be a lead guitarist. You know what I mean? Like I was able to step into a role that I typically don't play, and I actually really liked it. I was like, "Ooh, this feels so powerful." Because like you're saying, most times like people don't really pay attention at all what the bass player's doing or what they even look like. So I'm very much used to that. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I spent most of my life, yeah, not wanting to be the center of attention, but that isn't to say that I don't enjoy it in certain situations. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm I'm a national touring musician. It's like I wouldn't do that if it was like totally hated being on stage, right? Like I make a living out of
Mhm.
it. So yeah, it's a weird state of living to be so introverted, so actually so hyper introverted, and yet like constantly like be on stages and like being in front of people. I don't know, but
And doing a podcast.
and doing a podcast, yeah. But there's a lot of people like me. I'm not like a special case. I know there's a lot of introverted artists and musicians that are, constantly putting themselves out there and stuff. And yeah, I wasn't gonna say it takes courage, but maybe in a certain capacity it kind of does. I don't know. I think you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
100%. I do think it takes courage as well to yo-yo in public. For me, I'm someone who is much more extroverted than you, I would say pretty confidently. And on top of that, I also kind of view even those interactions that we've kind of characterized as obnoxious as ultimately not that much of a harm to me. Yes, I do get a little bit mortified, but the other way I view it is that unless I'm not going to yo-yo at someone's funeral, for instance, you know what I mean? But when I'm outside yo-yoing in public, I'm not taking up more space than I need to. I'm not hitting people with my yo-yo, blah blah blah. Even if I'm not in the zone or whatever, and I'm not hitting my best tricks, I think that for the most part, my presence is a positive for a lot of people. It is something cool that they usually don't get to see, or maybe have never seen before, especially. And if they want to have a quick talk, or even if they do want to point and yell at all their friends in a crowded area, oh my God, that guy's yo-yoing. Ultimately, I like to think that I brought a little bit of joy to their day. And because of that, it motivates me even more to say, hey, regardless of what people are going to say to me or how many looks I'm going to get, I enjoy yo-yoing, even if I'm not doing it at my very best. And if other people also enjoy the fact that there's somebody in the space that they're in is yo-yoing, then I'm going to keep on doing it. And that's kind of where that calculus ends. I don't overthink it any more than those things.
Yeah, I got you. That's a very optimistic viewpoint, almost like altruistic viewpoint on yo-yoing in public and stuff. And yeah, I can dig it. Yeah, I definitely need to take a page out of your book. I like it.
Yeah, yo-yo in public a little bit more, man. You got some sick tricks too. I keep saying this, and I know that also we were just messaging about it, but yo-yo trick video, dude? Yo-yo trick video?
Maybe it's a good idea. I don't know. Yeah, maybe we should
And we'll
drop it
do it in
on.
public. Yeah. I was thinking we got a mall up here, Lakeline Mall. We should just record there because it's a bunch of vast empty spaces because malls are dead these days. And I think we could get some really cool shots where, say, I'm recording you from the second floor and you're down on the first floor, stuff like that. We got a lot of angles.
I feel like that's such a classic yo-yo destination, the mall. Let's make the mall
Oh,
video.
yeah. I feel like the Hitman the Final Chapter video was taken outside of a mall or something.
Was it? Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. We should compile a list of like if we can. Oh wait, you're good at GeoTracker, right? I bet you could like track down like what some of these like locations in like classic videos are.
Oh, true. I could just dox a bunch of old yo-yo videos. That'd be sick.
Yeah, why not?
Well, speaking of old yo-yo videos, do you want to get into the meat and potatoes of what we were planning on doing for this episode 3?
Yeah, so yeah, explain to viewers how this all started, this little video review we're gonna do.
Back in episode 2, man, we were talking about how videos in the modern day maybe don't have quite as much outsized influence on the community as when, say, JD was dropping videos back in the early 2000s. And I was saying, hey, even if it is a case that they aren't quite as influential, there are incredible videos. I would say, and go as far as to say, we're actually living in a golden age of yo-yo videos. And so we decided we're going to do a little bit of a video swap. We both sent each other 3 videos. I did a bunch of quote unquote modern videos, so stuff from the 2020s. And then in kind, JD sent me a bunch of videos from the early 2000s. And we're just going to compare some notes, some takeaways that we had on all 6 of these things.
Yeah, so first up, do you want to go through the ones you sent me or should we do mine first?
Oh, we can go in chronological order. So we could go old to new if you want.
Okay, I think the oldest one I sent you might have been One Day Forever. Or actually, no, it was Hitman the Final Chapter Free Generation, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Free Generation. And it's a good place to start because, God, man, this video was one of the ones that I watched, and then it kind of compelled me more to do that failed statement freestyle at etc. So for those of you who haven't seen this just yet, we're going to link all these in the show description, just by the way. So definitely check these out and maybe even do that right now before you listen to the rest of the episode. But this is a video all around the JD. So unfortunately not our JD, but the JD doing videos on a Hitman. And God, there's some sick videos here.
Yeah, this is classic. This is one of my favorites from back in the day. And to me, these tricks are still so like JD has a style to me that I don't think anyone could duplicate. Like even today, I don't think people could really duplicate what he was doing.
It's because his tricks, 1, would never click, and 2, it's what inspired what I was saying at the start of the episode, which is a lot of his tricks would actually just actively get you a major deduction in competition because he's doing things like grabbing the yo-yo and the snap starting the yo-yo halfway through a mount. He's doing a lot of cat's cradle-esque tricks where not picture tricks and not even actually pulling bits of the string through loops, but rather he is manipulating the string with the yo-yo kind of hanging off to the side, and then he will remount the yo-yo in a novel new position. Those kinds of things are so sick, and like you said, it's so very JD. And also the way that he moves, it's not necessarily fluid, but it is precise and surgical in a really impressive way. And those things all combined, I think, leads to just an incredibly unique trick set, as you're talking about.
Yeah, I think he has a smoothness to him. Definitely. That's definitely there. Um, yeah, and it's like you're saying, it's funny, all the things that we used to think were cool that people don't really do anymore. But I mean, I still think they're cool, especially watching him. I think they're cool. But
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, well, and you said they wouldn't click, but I mean, I guess they were clicking back then because he won worlds, right?
I don't even know how clicking worked back in those years, the early 2000s. We should definitely get someone who with a little bit more direct experience on the competitive side of those days because I would love to see how he dominated. Was it '02 that he was dominating or '03?
They won worlds. Oh
Yeah.
man, you're testing my knowledge now. I was it 02? Can I
I'm
lock
not
in that answer?
sure. I'm locking in.
No, that had to have been
Oh
Yuki.
god.
That was Yuki, wasn't it?
Was Yukio too? I don't remember anymore.
You know what? I'm pulling up the list. It was
I
Yuki.
think I'm
It was Yuki
pretty sure it was
Spencer.
2003.
He won
I would
2003.
bet
You're
any
right.
amount of money it's 2003.
Yep. 03.
Okay, great. Yeah. So 2003. I'm not exactly sure how the competition worked back then, but I also, if I'm remembering properly, not remembering a whole lot of those specifically major deductible style tricks where he's doing the mount, grab the yo-yo, and then snap start the yo-yo kind of things. I think that that was mostly for the realm of videos like this one.
Well, look, I will say that I'm pretty sure, 99% sure, he did the full grind across both of his outstretched arms behind his shoulder.
Oh, that's a JD classic. Yeah, I'm
I'm
almost
pretty
certain
sure
he
he
did
did
that
in
as
that
well.
freestyle. So, and I don't know if
Hmm.
anyone else has ever done that in a freestyle. So that I don't know. I think it's pretty cool.
I think grinds should click in the modern day, by the way. It's crazy that they don't.
I miss grinds. Grinds used to be a thing. Like it was just a part of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a yo-yo wasn't good. A medal wasn't good if it couldn't thumb grind back in the day. That was like a thing. It sounds funny, but that was like an actual thing.
Dude, I've realized my love of polished yo-yos is directly correspondent to the fact that I haven't been exploring grinds because I've been playing with a few more blasted finishes recently and I'm having a lot more fun just doing grinds, even just grind binds and coming to the realization this is a whole realm that I need to explore a little bit more has really been hitting me recently. So I want to do some more grinds. You got to teach me a few old school ones, dude.
Yeah, well, I keep doing a modern one. I don't know who I first saw doing this, but it was like a few weeks ago. It was very recent. I adopted this bind, and now like 50% of the time I bind, I do this bind, the one where you catch it like on a your non-throw hand finger, like index finger, and you kind of like just whip bind, like you whip into the. I'll show you later. You've seen me do it in a video, I'm sure, but I've become addicted to that bind. It's now my like quote unquote main bind. So
Hmm.
yeah, grinds are fun. I mean, every time I get a new medal, I one of the first things I do is I just toss it up and I just feel it on my skin. I don't know why. Like I just grind, and
Yeah, it's
we all need to grind more. Don't be afraid to grind.
yeah, I love being on that grind. So to round out the quick discussion on free generation, also the fact that it's being yo-yoed to
Eminem,
with
right?
Soldier, I believe by Eminem, yeah, it's just so dating of the video, but in a good way, right? Like this is like looking back at old skate videos and just reminiscing of that era, but really it's a beautiful time capsule. It has a bunch of very inspiring tricks. If it is a video that inspired someone like me to redo their entire freestyle 2 nights before, etc., then I'm sure that it could impact some other people in the audience. So if you guys haven't seen this, please go check Free Generation out. But also on the subject of grinds, I want to go over to our second video, which is Exponent by Mikhail Tulobit.
Yeah, this is a super, super, in my opinion, underrated video from a very underrated thrower. I think he was sponsored by Yo-Yo Jam back in the day, and his videos are full of Yo-Yo Jam, and they're full
Hmm.
of really, really unique tricks with cool names.
Yeah, I love the fact that he names all of his tricks, and I do wish that we would get back to that era. I know there's a few people who still do it. I know Zammy will still name their tricks, but outside of that, it feels like a lot of people are just saying, "Yeah, I'm learning." I don't know
Elements.
Alan Chen's meta combo, or I'm learning, like Jakob Dolej's meta whip or something like that. We need to put novel, fun names that have nothing to do with the trick itself back.
That's true. Actually, you're right. Yeah, I kind of realized that we've kind of gone away from the trick naming era. Because, yeah, like you're saying, people usually say they're just learning a trick that's somebody's name and then, like element or technique name that we all know.
Mhm.
So, do you name your tricks?
I do name my tricks. Maybe it's just because it's kind of almost like an embarrassing process. Because, for instance, I know that Zammy has a trick that's just called the Phantom Pain and has a whole series of, I believe they're all Mobius tricks that are named after Metal Gear Solid games. And I'm just thinking to myself, that's sick when someone else does it, but I feel like none of my tricks are worthy of being named after something that is way more well known, popular, and beloved than anything I'm doing.
Yeah, you got to believe. You got to believe in the tricks.
I guess that's true. I name all my tricks after the song I'm listening to when I finally lock the trick in, by the way.
That's classic. Oh, I mean, I guess, that's a good way you can know if your trick is good enough. Like, would I name this after like a song? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Is it
No,
that
totally,
good?
I get it. Yeah, it's like, for instance, my bread and butter tech combo that you've seen, the one that ends in the like fake GT knot thing that
Oh
I
yeah.
can like pull apart. That's called Storage. It's after the Samlerk song. It's like 10, 12 minutes long, which is probably the reason why I was able to first hit this trick in its most current form while yo-yoing to that, just because, hey, if it's a really long song, there's a higher likelihood that I'm going to be able to get a trick during it, right?
hmm So, what are your impressions of this exponent video?
Dude, I love Mikhail Tulabut's style, and thank you so much for, by the way, showing me and getting me into his style. I think one of the big things that got me in this video in particular was the little thumb flip pen grind that he does, where he's got a pen in his throw hand. He throws the yo-yo, trapezes it, and then he does a little thumb flip, gets the Sharpie out there, and then lands the yo-yo to do a grind on it. And I was cackling when I saw that. That is so of the early 2000s. But what isn't really of the early 2000s are the majority of his tricks. This man is so good at just doing still relevant tech and slack. It's such sick stuff.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff stands up in my opinion. But I mean, that comes down to style though, because people really don't throw like that anymore. I mean, a lot of the mounts and stuff are really, really unique. But yeah, like if you watch this, you're definitely gonna know it's dated. But I think you'll probably agree with us when, like I'm saying, like these tricks still like stand the test of time.
Dude, he's yo-yoing to Fury by Juggernaut, spelled with a Z. Of course,
Yeah,
it's dated.
a little
Yeah, this
bit.
was September '05 for reference that this came out. And I think this is one in a series of videos, all of which start with EX, which just also fully dates this. But Execute, which is the video that comes after Exponent, is, I think, his peak early 2000s to mid 2000s style. And then what's really cool is that he actually returned and did another EX video in Exile during the pandemic. And I know you're saying like nobody yo-yos the way that he does right now, but I'm happy he still yo-yos the way that he does, because there's such a clear line from his tricks from 2021 all the way back to '05.
Yeah, man, that's really cool to see legacy throwers like that too, where you can, like you said, you can see their style is kind of, um, they stayed true to something this entire time. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And I think that for someone who, I don't think he's been forgotten by everybody. Obviously, he's not been forgotten by you. You've been singing his praises, JD, and of course, you showed me his videos. But as someone who likes to think I'm pretty well versed in yo-yoing, not having heard of Mikhail before I saw Exponent from you, I think really shows that this is a guy that needs to get his flowers, and we all really need to recognize as a foundational member of modern tech, because God, his stuff is so sick and really holds up today.
Yeah, I mean, these are the kind of throwers where like nobody was making tutorials. I don't think he made any tutorials. I could be wrong for the stuff they were
Mhm.
doing, and uh yeah, it kind of speaks to like how deceptively difficult some of this stuff is to pull off and learn. So, yeah, if you guys haven't seen his videos, definitely check them out.
And especially pulling it off on old school yo-yos. He was doing a lot of the stuff, I believe, just on a Hitman.
Probably Hitman's, probably some of the other Yo-Yo Jam like stuff people didn't play with as much, I don't think. Like night moves, like some of those. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah,
But
that was the Dale Bell signature, like the founder of Yo-Yo Jam, I believe.
yeah, I think that might make appearance in some videos. I don't know. I'd be curious to ask him and see if he remembers like what he was using in these videos, because I'm pretty sure it's all Yo-Yo Jam. It looks like it anyway.
Yeah, and I believe he also had a signature with Yo-Yo Jam, the Vigilante. I'm not 100% on that, don't quote me.
That I don't remember, but you're probably right.
All right. Well, shout out to Mikhail Tulibut. And dude, if JD, if you could drop him a line somehow, I don't know if you have a contact info for him, but I would love to be able to thank him just for how impactful his tricks have been ever since I started watching them. I've been really trying to incorporate a little bit more of his flair and tech into my stuff recently.
Yeah, I'll pass that along to our staff, and I'll see if they can get in touch.
Our staff being you manning the Yo-Yo Pyramid Scheme Gmail.
It's just me. It's been me this whole time. It's just us.
It was me, Austin.
It was just us.
All right. Well, moving on from there, final video from the old school. We have 1A Forever, which is spelled 1A43V3R, and then it has hyphen amazing yo-yo video, which I think really just brings it home, you know. But this is Whip, also known as Rodrigo Yokota de Paula Lima and John Sakar, who are just throwing down some cool tricks in Malaysia.
Yeah, this is another classic video that, I mean, these tricks to me, they still look kind of modern. I don't know, especially that last combo he hits in the video.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly modern video as well. And honestly, I think if anything, what these videos, JD, have shown me is that the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? People are hitting the same kind of bangers that they did back in the day. And it's just new pairs of eyes that are wowed in the same way on them. And maybe new coat of paint here or there, or newer, wider yo-yo. But ultimately, what makes a trick cool is not going to change from moment to moment or era to era too much.
Yeah, well, actually, now that you say that, that kind of makes me want to do like a small little personal study of, what kind of elements have prevailed, from like this time period of like the early 2000s, because there's definitely some that people still do or still incorporate or still segue into like more modern stuff. Especially some of the like 1.5 stuff or whatever, like
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to do a little research, and I want to put a little compilation together, maybe.
hmm what I will say is that I feel that 1A4 Ever as a video, and maybe it's just by virtue of having two people in it, feels the most of its time in a non-individual way, if that makes sense. Where Mikhail Tulibut, when we were talking about Exponent, has a style that I think is very much all his own. Like, you can show me a shot of him yo-yoing from any era or with any quality of camera or with any music playing behind it, not just Fury by Juggernauts, and I would say, oh, that's a Mikhail Tulibut trick. Same kind of thing with JD. You could put JD in front of the most annoying modern yo-yo freestyle music, but I would still be able to point out and say, hey, that is a JD trick. I don't know if I could do the same for Whip or John. Honestly, I kind of feel like out of all of the videos we saw, their tricks are maybe the most foundational, if that makes sense. They aren't standing out as things that are all their own. Rather, these are just really good, solid old school tricks done by two really solid old school yo-yoers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see where you're coming from. Um, yeah, and that's not to discredit, them at
No,
all
not at all.
or what they're
hmm
doing, because I think it's dope and I like their styles. But yeah, I kind of see what you mean. It's like JD and Mikhail are kind of like outliers in that sense, where it's harder to like, like where do you draw this from? Like these types of tricks from, what I mean? Like I was saying, like some of the mounts like Mikhail came up with, they don't really, to me, they don't stem from like a lot of the other, like you're kind of saying, foundational stuff we've seen. Whereas like some of these tricks in 1A Forever, yeah, they're a little easier to trace, like origin wise and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do think that at the same time, that's almost a credit to them, though. The fact that we can trace the arc of their tricks into the DNA of modern yo-yoing, and I think especially mid 2010s yo-yoing shows that even though I think a lot of people similarly don't necessarily remember Whip or John as much as they would remember, say, JD, right? They're still incredibly important members of historical yo-yoing.
Sure, yeah. And maybe this, I mean, yeah, are they from Brazil? Do you know? Or Malaysia?
So I believe that John Sakar is a Malay native, and then yes, Whip is from Brazil. And funnily enough, he's also apparently one of the greatest graffiti artists in all of Brazilian history, which is very interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Multi-talented kind of guy.
yeah. I mean, the name Rodrigo Yokota de Paula Lima does kind of give away where he's from, I would say.
Yeah, and you gotta dig like the popped collar. It almost looks like layered polo shirts.
I think
Like,
he is. I think he's dual wielding polo shirts with pop collars, dude.
man, that is a forgotten style. That was probably a forgotten style even when this was filmed. I mean, I don't remember anyone else with like layered polo shirts like that.
Yeah, the popped collars, the video ending with both of them smoking cigarettes is also just it's so this is what was cool in the 2000s, you know.
Yeah, so it's about the attitude too. It's not always
Oh
just
yeah.
like the tricks, but also it's like how you do them. So that's also what I kind of like about this video a lot. It has an attitude to it, almost like a street.
Well,
There's
that's
a
the
street
thing.
style to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like and that attitude, as much as I love it, is gone from all three of the modern videos that I brought your way. If we want to start talking about those, is there one that you want to start with?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start with. Well, why don't we just start with the order that you sent me them in?
Sounds like a plan.
So we'll start with Spin.
Yeah, so Spin is directed by Kosuke Sakamaki, and it is a video featuring Kieran Cooper mostly, with a few other people coming on in. And it's, I think, the longest video that I sent you, somewhere around like 9.5 minutes. And it's mostly yo-yo video, but it's also kind of something more than that.
Yeah, I don't think when I first watched this, I was like, "Why'd you send me this? I don't think this is a yo-yo video." Like, I wasn't really sure what I was watching, but I kind of got into it, and it did have a good amount of throwing.
Yeah, it's a video that I think does a lot for me in regards to it showing yo-yoing as a visual tool and a storytelling tool to push forward a total video that isn't necessarily all about showcasing tricks. And I think that another video that we'll be talking about also kind of is the same thing. It is less of a trick showcase and more of an artistic statement. But while Jakub's video that we're going to talk about, the noir one, is much more a trick showcase that is first and foremost an artistic statement that's saying something about yo-yoing. For me, I feel like Spin is using yo-yoing to say something about something that isn't yo-yoing almost.
Yeah, and also this is not related, but kind of related. This is an aside. These kind of videos, it's a shame for me actually. They're really hard to find sometimes.
Oh
Even
yeah.
even the ones I sent you. Like the algorithm does not care about Hitman free generation. You know what I mean? It does not care about 1A Forever. It does not care about Spin. Like Gentry Stein, Brandon Vu, Angel 7 Up or whatever his name is. Like, hats off to you. You guys win. You've won YouTube. You literally win. I cannot search for anytime I put anything yo-yo keyword, if I'm trying to find anything yo-yo related, like their videos are just all over the freaking feed. Like kudzu. Like it's just like you can't get rid of it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean they cracked the code, man, and definitely I think it helped them a lot jumping in early on when TikTok was popping off and like the pandemic. I noticed that's when some of those guys really started, making those kind of videos and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
man, like I'm saying, it's a damn shame because some of these longer form videos and stuff like Spin, they don't have like visibility, I feel like. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just
I feel
my
like
feed. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I think that it is just also a matter of, especially Spin, just not being SEO'd for yo-yoing, because it is directed by someone who's not a yo-yoer, or at the very least doesn't focus his online presence towards yo-yoing. Kosuke is someone who has a few other short films that have no yo-yoing on his channel. And so what I'm thinking is that, especially that one probably isn't going to come up in most people's feeds, but I would also say that I've probably wrecked my algorithm on YouTube to the point where I do get the latest Duncan videos, the latest empathy videos, the latest yo-yo recreation videos, all those things pushed to my feed. And then I'm doing enough addictive yo-yo searching that I will eventually come across Spin. But yeah, no, for sure. If you look up yo-yo in the YouTube search bar, you are first and foremost going to be getting, can I do a DNA on top of my world's trophy? Or the trying yo-yo thirst traps
Trying
video,
yo-yo
or
thirst
the
traps, man.
yeah, or the can I hit a 5.5 point hook? This will be my hardest trick.
Yeah, man, let me tell you, 1A Forever was hard to find. And
Oh,
I have search recommendations turned off. Like I thought I had my YouTube set, so it's like, it doesn't recommend anything. And it was still really hard to find. I'm searching, Whip, Yo-Yo Rodrigo. I'm searching his full name. Like I can't find like it was really hard to find that video.
dude, I mean, the problem is that annoyingly, Yo-Yo Factory made a yo-yo called the Whip, which is also just further diluting Whip
Oh, I
videos.
know, yeah. Yeah. It didn't know what I wanted, but I
Oh
found it
gosh.
and I sent it to you, and hopefully more people can find it and watch it now too.
Yeah, I mean, it also has what looks like to be a barcode for the name as first glance because it is just written in leet
Oh,
speak.
the lead speak,
But
yeah.
yeah, we're gonna link it in the show notes, like I said before. All right, but really quick to jump back to Spin, I do want to ask you, JD, what do you think this video is about? Because it has a few distinct sections, right? You start with a little bit of yo-yoing, and then you go into what I will call the lunch scene, and then from there we have yo-yoing to close this out.
Yeah, I have no idea, but I did like the lunch scene, and I'm not really sure why, but I kind of enjoyed that little top-down scene where they're eating the sandwiches. Are they
Hmm.
the bagel sandwiches? Is that what they're eating?
Yeah, they're eating the bagel sandwiches, and I believe that they didn't go to the popular bagel place; they went to the other place down the road or something. Yeah, good plot, good plot.
Yeah, and just having kind of like a random conversation, which I told you before actually made me kind of sad because I remember having like those really random conversations with groups of friends like that. And I feel like I haven't done that in a long time. So yeah, there was something kind of like sadly nostalgic about watching that scene, but I liked it all the same.
Yeah, we should have some nice random conversations about eels tying their tails in knots and things like that.
While we make bagel sandwiches,
True.
that sounds good.
We could have a, instead of doing a, what should we call it? Instead of having a rejection therapy after hours, we could have a rejection therapy before hours where we eat lunch before we record our episode and we're just chatting about random stuff. That would be Patreon content right there.
We should. I'm down.
Yeah. But so for me, if you want, I can give my thesis because I do have a theory about spin, and it's basically that I think this is a video about how yo-yos are a nexus point for both human connection, but also a means by which to fill in all the little small mundane parts of one's life with something that is fulfilling and compelling and interesting. And the reason I say this is that first and foremost, this is a video that, like I said, is half yo-yo tricks, half the rest of Kieran's life. He's hanging around in a city. He's waiting for the train. He's eating lunch with friends, that kind of stuff, you know? And for me, I think that, for instance, that discussion about eels tying their tails in knots and being a big knot ball gets colored by the fact that Kieran's a yo-yoer and that we're yo-yoers. And so when we hear about the eel tail knot, as an example, we think about it as a wad of yo-yos string bound up. And when Kieran is waiting at the train station and those two girls come up to him and ask if he's playing with a yo-yo and he says no, I think back to all these awkward conversations that we just talked about, JD, in regards to us yo-yoing. And I wouldn't say, no, this isn't a yo-yo, but that's how Kieran approached that situation. And the fact that we all are confronted with those choices day to day on how to talk about this aspect of our lives to others is, I think, something quite compelling. And then at the end of the video, when he gets his yo-yo stolen by a thief, and the thief looks at this object that he's stolen from Kieran and then kind of shrugs his shoulders and puts the yo-yo into his hoodie pocket, what to me that represents is that this is a thing that Kieran uses in his day-to-day life to bring little joy to these moments of waiting for the train or before lunch is made for him and his friends. And this thief doesn't have that context. He doesn't have the way that this yo-yo translates into this complete life of someone else. He just takes it and walks off with it. And maybe in the future, he will be able to use that yo-yo in the same way that Kieran can. But it's Kieran Cooper, man. This dude has some of the coolest tricks of all time, some of the hardest tricks of all time, too. So it'll be a while before he does that. But maybe I think the little flash of hope at the end of the video is that, yeah, it sucks that Kieran had his yo-yo stolen, but hopefully this thief finds something in yo-yoing just in the same way that Kieran has, and we all have.
Well said. And yeah, I like how it kind of showcases too. Kind of like you're saying, like yo-yoing is just part of this daily life, which is so normal for a lot of us. But you know, if you think objectively, it's really not that common. But you know, like it shows that scene where he's just kind of throwing like on that porch or whatever, and then his friend kind of comes outside and sits down. And this is a normal scene, I think, for a lot of us because we're throwers. But you know, a lot of people's lives, obviously, if they witness this scene like in person, I don't know, it's pretty novel actually, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you know, because I find myself in a lot of situations where I'm just kind of throwing around family members and stuff like that, and to them it's probably very normal. But you know, as someone that hasn't seen it before walks in the room, like a friend of theirs, they're kind of like, "Whoa, this is interesting." You know, never seen this before.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, to us, it's just such a normal part of our daily lives. So, yeah, I kind of like how this video showcases that, and it puts into context. You know what I mean? What it means to be a thrower.
So many other videos about yo-yoing are very much about yo-yoing. It's by throwers for throwers, but they do that because they are invested in the vocabulary of yo-yoing, if that makes sense. They let the tricks do the talking in the videos, and for yo-yoers, that's all we need. We see the cool tricks, we reflect upon them, we get inspired by them. Spin is still for yo-yoers in a way, but it's doing it through the social side of yo-yoing, this very abstracted element that I really don't think is something that is super easy to represent in video form. And Spin uniquely and I think valuably does it. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to send it to you, because it is a video that maybe doesn't have the coolest showcasing of tricks. And it's actually a little bit hard because of how the cameras are sometimes angled to actually get a whole lot from the tricks that Kieran is doing. But ultimately, I do think it's a very necessary and a very novel video.
Yeah, I think it's not a yo-yo video, or how do I put this? It's definitely not a trick video, but it is a yo-yo video to me,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
I think
So
that's a good way of putting it.
yeah, so I definitely, I can't, like you're saying, the focus isn't really so much on the tricks, although there is a really good POV sequence though that is clearly, about the tricks, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
But aside from that, yeah, it's, he's yo-yoing a lot, but sometimes it's kind of hard to see. Somebody's pretty far away. You know what I mean? He's like standing on top of this big concrete platform or something with a door. And you can't really see what he's doing that well, but um, yeah, great video. I definitely enjoyed it. And I'm excited to talk about the next video. Or do you want to talk about the noir video, or do you want to talk about the yo-yo recreation video you sent me?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say let's go to the yo-yo recreation video first because I have a thesis to say on Jakub's, and I also want to make sure that we're keeping on a somewhat reasonable time for our episodes, you know?
Okay, yeah, I know you have a lot to say about that video, so let's
Yeah,
speak a
let's
little
knock
bit about
out
Fork.
the YYR one first. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had actually sent you a few different ones. I was going to talk about the Polo video that I sent you, his debut video for Duncan, but the Yo-Yo Recreation one that I sent you, this is a video that is showcasing what is actually kind of a whole new genre of yo-yos, which I find very interesting. I believe this one was called the Fork. And what I found very interesting from a video side of this was just how also uninterested in fully showcasing tricks it was.
Yeah, it's a little hard to see even, like the coloring and that first shot. Maybe about halfway in it becomes a little less obscured, but yeah, it's a different style for sure. And it's pretty short. It's only like a minute and 20 seconds long, I think.
And that's where a lot of the YYR videos are. But so this video, which for reference is showcasing Tetsudo Kato, is shot basically all with a white background, a white shirt, white string, and a white-ish, I think it's a polycarbonate yo-yo. And so what this all brings together is a very tonally compelling video where the whole thing is almost dreamlike in how it's presented. But the movement of the yo-yo and the formations of the string and all those kinds of behaviors are not necessarily done in a way where you can fully decipher everything that's going on. Rather, I think it is to show the affect of Tetsudo's style and what exactly he wants to showcase with what I said before was kind of this new wave of technology that Yo-Yo Recreation's trying that I really want to get my hands on, which is where the Fork and other yo-yos that I think are going to be using, it's called Wizzy system, I believe, have really, really wide gaps, like wider than the bearing is wide, and then incredibly thick rope-like string. And so you get very novel string behavior coming from that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, man, yo-yo recreation stuff is so cool, but a lot of it is so expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, I kind of missed out on the latest round of mystery boxes that they did because they dropped one at the start of April. And I was going to say to myself, all right, I know I already made a pledge that I wasn't going to buy yo-yos until the end of the year this year, but if I do get this job promotion, I would buy one as my reward. But then it took a little bit longer than I thought for me to get confirmed for my promotion, so I didn't get to buy the buy the box. And now just looking at the price for individual yo-yos, it hurts my soul, especially for stuff like the fork that isn't available in the US yet. It's just tough to justify with the shipping and the customs, especially.
Wait, so did you already break your pledge?
No, I haven't broken my pledge because that box wasn't there.
Oh, okay. Well, I've definitely.
But I
broken
was
my
about
pledge.
to. Wait, what's up?
Well, actually, I had no pledge, but that's why I've already spent quite a bit of money on yo-yos this year. Speaking of which,
It
we have
happens.
a lot
It
of stuff
happens,
we need to
man.
review.
Oh my god, yeah, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna have a review at the end of this episode. It might be a little bit of a speedrun review, just because I do want to spend a lot of time jumping into the Jakub Dolej video. But to quickly round out as well this discussion of the fork video, which, like you said, is only a minute 20, so I don't want to give it a ton of time, and I want you guys to digest it yourselves. What I really do like about the fork video is the fact that it is willing to still be about yo-yoing, be about showcasing these tricks, but it's using kind of a novel approach to the visuals of yo-yoing to provide this kind of sensory experience that still transcends being just a cool showcase of cool tricks.
Yeah, I agree. It's concise. It's very styled. I like it. It's a cool one, and I like all the stuff that Yo-Yo Recreation makes. I'm a big fan.
Oh yeah, yeah. Did you just see they released a new Hajime video?
I have. Wait, you sent it to me, didn't you?
I did send it to you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I did watch it. I need to watch it again.
Oh god, it's Hajime. You gotta watch it 500 times. It's still not enough, you know.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of a video I could watch 500 times, though, we're moving on to the final video out of the 6, which is the Jakub Dolej Noir video from Empathy. So this was the video for the release of his first signature with Empathy, the Noir. And, dude, this is just one of the best yo-yo videos. This might be one of the best damn videos on the entire internet.
I agree. This is one of the best videos I've ever seen in my life. It seems not right that anyone can just access this for free. I feel like we should have to pay money to watch this video. I can't get enough of it.
So this is directed by Christoph Kindle and Thomas Dudek, and it is mostly performed to New Ways by Daughter. I just want to get all of these little tech things out of the way before getting into what this video really is, which is to me just this exceptional commentary that once again transcends yo-yoing, but is communicating these ideas through not even just situating yo-yoing in the contexts that spin was done in, but rather it is the yo-yoing itself that says things, and that's incredible to me.
I also still can't tell if some of this is filmed on a green screen or if like living in Europe just looks like that.
I think living in Europe is just that crazy. It's like the Pacific Northwest meets crippling desolation.
Yeah, man. I mean, these locations are awesome, man.
Oh, they're so good. So I guess we could start with how this video plays out, which is we have Jakub who throws his yo-yo in a lake. He has weird visions of a bunch of dogs and wolves and sheep and stuff. Then he yo-yos, and then a bird dies, and then he yo-yos some more.
Something like that, yeah, like Hitchcock reference somewhere in there.
I don't know if it's necessarily a Hitchcock reference, but
okay,
what I will say it is just, to me, a commentary on humanity's place in nature, as well as what it means to grapple with humanity's nature as a fundamentally controlling aspect of the world as it currently is.
So would you agree that this video is as much about the tricks as it is about something else aside from the tricks?
Yes, and that's kind of the thing, and that's the reason why I think this video is so brilliant, is that this is, to me, in my estimation, one of the very first yo-yo performances or videos that really captures something through its tricks. This has kind of been a discussion I've had with a friend before, and it's something I want to have with you in a little bit more detail in the future, JD, which is like, can a yo-yo trick by itself make you cry? And to me, thinking about what that means and really thinking no music, no specific cinematography, it is the nature of the trick itself that deeply impacts and resonates with you. can we as practitioners of this medium do that in the same way that a filmmaker can make you cry with a movie, or a poet can make you cry with a poem, or a musician can make you cry with a song? I like to believe that yo-yoing can do the same. And while obviously Jakub's video is still very much about cinematography, it has some of the best cinematography of any yo-yo video, and it's still about the music. It has a beautiful ethereal song by Daughter, not Daughters, but Daughter, backing it. Ultimately, JD, I think that this is the closest we get to showing that yo-yoing is unto itself a incredible, deep, profound medium for expressing emotions in its own right.
So did you cry when you watched this?
I did cry when I watched this video.
Oh wow.
I cry at a lot of stuff. Actually, you know what? This is a quick PSA that is outside the rest of this episode. I'm making a PSA as someone who's now traveling a lot for work. Normalize ugly crying to movies on planes. They give us a full spread of new movies to watch. And nobody should be looking at me funny when I'm ugly crying to like Lady Bird in the middle of a flight where I'm delirious off of no sleep. Okay, it's just the way things are. Let me watch emotional movies. So I watched Lady Bird and I cried at Lady Bird.
Okay.
I watched Ratatouille and I cried at Ratatouille. And then what else did I watch? I watched Fury Road, but I didn't cry at Fury Road. But Fury Road is just one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion.
I'm trying to remember the last time I cried to a movie. Are you familiar with I'm gonna butcher this name. I apologize for the viewers. Ming Liang Sai. Do you know that
I'm not. No.
filmmaker? Okay, you should definitely look him up. They made some awesome films. It's a lot of like slow cinema if you've ever watched that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a
Which
little.
I've just started getting into. So there's a movie from 1994 called Vive l'Amour, and I watched it last year. And yeah, it kind of builds up to this very emotional scene. I won't spoil it at the very end. It kind of ends with this very emotional long shot of something happening. And it was just so impactful. And I was like, damn. And I definitely shed a tear for that. So yeah, I recommend you watch that one if you want to cry or not.
If you can't tell, I like to cry, and I do cry quite a bit. So
I like to cry. I can't. You know what I mean? It's very
yeah.
rare that something makes me do that. But I mean, I don't dislike crying because that's kind of something I use as a gauge. I think sometimes, kind of like you're talking about, if something is really good to me, whether it's like music or some kind of media, like that goosebumps feeling. Like that's an easy way for me to classify music. If I can I can't dispute that it's really good. If I get that like skin crawl feel, I'm like, okay, this made me feel something deep. You know what I mean? So crying could be kind of like that for me too. Because like I saw that film, I saw Vive l'Amour, and I was like, okay, for this film to be able to do that to me, like me, this stoic, dead inside human being, to shed a tear, then that means that there's something here. You know what I mean? There's a level of artistry here it's extremely high, and I take note of it when it happens. I'm like, wow, that really blew me away. So
I totally agree, and that's why I rave about this noir video, because Jakub and Christoph and Tomasz and everybody else who participated in making this video what it is made me cry and moved me deeply. And it's hard for yo-yoing to do that. I think Zach Gormley's 2016 Nats and Worlds freestyle was also very close to making me cry. The one he does to My Body is a Cage. Because similarly, it through the medium of yo-yoing does something that I don't think many yo-yoers can do or haven't worked towards doing yet, and I hope more people do, which is, like I said, say something through yo-yoing. And I have an idea of why it says what I said it says, but I don't know, JD. What do you think this video says?
that's what I wanted to ask you. What do you think this video is really about?
Yeah, so like I said, I do think that this is a video about grappling with man's fundamental nature in terms of its effect upon the world at large, and attempting to first reject and then accept this kind of nausea that comes with being part of a world that is inherently destructive of its aspects. I don't know if that makes sense, so I'll just jump in and do a little quick play-by-play and kind of reflect as to how I get there. So, like I said, we start in the video with the shot of a herding dog. I think it's a border collie herding sheep. And then we cut to Jakub, who's in this forest by this lake. And this initial shot where we have this herding dog, to me, speaks about man's ability to exert control over nature, in that we've domesticated the wolf into the dog, and then we've set the dog upon our flocks of domesticated sheep in order to then very clearly shape the environment. We shape the size of the sheep's herd, and we move the sheep from place to place using the dog, which has itself become kind of this slavering beast for the utilization of mankind in our agricultural endeavors, right? And then we then have that vision of Jakub being confronted with the wolf, the wild form of these collies, the wild form of what mankind has then taken from and taken out of its context and shaped into the dog. And in that moment, in that vision, Jakub, feeling disgust, then throws his yo-yo, the noir, into the lake. And to me, what the yo-yo is throughout this video is this idol of this revulsion. It is the representation of the artificiality of mankind and the way that artificiality impacts the world. And the yo-yo is a perfect representative of this, where it is a non-utilitarian way that we can shape and form things. We sculpt tricks, we weave the string, we weave the yo-yo. The yo-yo itself, this hard geometric metal object combined and put up against the vast backdrop of nature. It is something that Jakub in that moment tosses away, rejects from himself, and it goes into the lake. And then realizing his detachment from this profound object, then immediately jumps in the lake after it, realizing what in the moment maybe is more of a primal drive and less of a conscious mistake, but recognizing this kind of as a mistake in a way. And then you get the title card where it's talking about, I forgot the exact French term, but it's talking about an object of revulsion, which is that noir, that yo-yo.
The bête noire.
I think it's like bête noir or something like that. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And then we get into the tricks. And Jakub is performing very dance-like tricks in a lot of ways. He's showcasing stuff that you just don't really get to see in competition from him, and they're beautiful. They're often these very geometric, very flowing tricks where he's synchronizing his body motion with the yo-yo. And to me, what a lot of these tricks speak to me is that he is trying to synchronize his body with the nature of the yo-yo. He is trying to fit back this idea of mankind's power into his conception of his life. And he's doing it with this dance that first is in opposition to the yo-yo and then comes into a coalescent sense of mankind exerting its power and recognizing its power through this play. And then after that, you have the bird shot, which is first birds flocking, birds swarming, and then a single dead bird falls from the sky at Jakub's feet. And to me, what this bird represents is the tipping point in his epistemology from mankind being uniquely destructive to mankind, the yo-yo, the bête noire, being in line with nature, which is that there is cruelty within nature, there is a will to hurt, and there is death, a cycle of death and rebirth that is inherent to nature, that mankind will occasionally assist in or occasionally exacerbate and harm. But ultimately, there is a brutality there on either side of the equation. And by rejecting the bête noire, rejecting this object of revulsion, this idol of mankind's power, Jakub isn't removing himself from the cycle. Rather, he is simply left to feel kind of alone or feel in this anomie that he is cut off from mankind, from nature, from himself. And so then he returns to yo-yoing, and then we get a return to the scene of the dogs, but now with the music playing, now with Yakub flowing through his tricks, I think he's recognizing that, yes, we have exerted our nature upon the wolf that has now become the dog, but the dog is no less fulfilled in his herding of the sheep around him. And similarly, the sheep are given life through the artificiality of mankind exerting themselves upon the world, but the sheep are still the sheep. They still cling to their nature and interface with their nature, and that we are all bound together in this cycle by this thread, right? The yo-yo string. And then the video ends ultimately with Yakub emerging back with the yo-yo in his hand from the water, dripping wet. And usually, whenever you see somebody emerging from water, they've been bathed, they've been baptized. It's that kind of language. They've been set anew. But to me, I don't think it's necessarily that, because he's dripping wet and he's walking with these haggard steps. And I think that if anything, the water actually did not bring him anything anew, but rather it soddened him with the recognition of his place in the world. And it is not a beautiful position. It's not even necessarily a correct or elegant position. It is not something that will be not nauseating. It isn't something that fits into place in a kumbaya circle of life. But I think that he is, at the end of the video, more recognizing of and accepting of mankind's nature in this way. And that's why the yo-yo is still in his hand. And that's why he walks back out of the forest, back into the rest of his life as a more complete person, as a person that maybe bears more weight now, but does so in a way that is almost, I guess, less childish than the person he came in as.
That was actually a Lord of the Rings reference, and he was a Smeagol getting the ring from the bottom. That's what I interpreted.
Yeah. Dude, it was actually a Jensen Kimmett reference when he threw the protostar into the water, and Jakub's like, this is what I'm going to do with my yo-yo when I win worlds inevitably.
That too, yeah. Well, that was a great review,
I don't
Chris.
know if... Yeah, do you agree with it? I don't know if maybe I've just gone completely bonkers here, but that's my interpretation of this video. And also, guys, we're going to throw this one in the description as well. Please let me know if you guys think I'm completely off the mark and I've gone completely crazy.
I think you are bonkers, but in the best possible way.
Thanks, bud.
And yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, I'm sure a lot of people listening have seen this. If you haven't, do yourself a favor. Like I said, this is a top 10 yo-yo video of all time for sure. It's amazing.
Yeah, I definitely think, and I don't want to, of course, disparage any of the videos that you sent me, JD, but if there is one out of these 6 videos that you guys need to watch, it is the Noir video. And hey, there's a lot of cool old school videos, but there really is only one video that says and does what the Noir video does, at least in my humble opinion.
Yeah, no, this is groundbreaking stuff.
And to me, I really, like I said before, do think we could get to the point where we're going to have this discussion about yo-yoing as its own art form and its own means by which to affect and say things. And yes, like I said, this is being assisted by all these shots that I talked about that don't necessarily have a yo-yo in it. The bird, the dog, the lake. But so much of this video is driven by Yakub and his yo-yoing and the way that he yo-yos, which, like I said, is profoundly different than what he does in competition. It's flowing, it's organic, it's often him doing like tutting or dance-like movements with his yo-yo before he inevitably throws it, or he's following up on its motion in almost kind of an after-image way with his limbs after the yo-yo comes to a rest. That kind of stuff to me is incredibly powerful and important, frankly, to the medium of yo-yoing.
I wouldn't have thought to describe some of these combos as dance-like, which is how you put it earlier. But watching back on it, I kind of agree, actually, with what you're saying. A lot of it, at least...
And there's a difference between...
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's a difference between dancing with a yo-yo, and we've seen that before, especially in like artistic performance divisions, and your tricks being themselves dance-like. And I think that's one of the things that Yakub has kind of broken past the barrier of, too.
Yeah, especially in the first half, they're not as technical. Although they do kind of some of them get a little technical in the second half, but
oh yeah.
But yeah, I see what you mean now actually. Yeah. Kind of dance like.
Well, I kind of want to move on to our final section now, just because we are coming up on our time here, and if in fact not a little bit over already, JD, but this is also, I think, just an episode about talking about really cool, really funky showcases of things. And I got a very weird yo-yo to talk about today, which is the G-Squared GBP.
Oh, yeah, you let me throw this one. And I actually really liked it, despite it being, it's very light, isn't it?
Yeah, so this yo-yo, for reference, is 48.5 grams, 43.5 millimeters in width, and 55 millimeters in diameter. And it is just such a bizarre little thing to play with. I also find it very funny because it is a bimetal and it has just the dinkiest little tiny stainless steel rims right on the outside to help with the fact it's so light and therefore could maybe lack a little bit of power. But as much as I'm not actually much of a G squared guy in general, I gotta say this yo-yo is something special, man.
And you have a pretty cool color, isn't it? Like a, did you have like a light blue one?
So I have a dark green one with a gold rim, and I also, for whatever reason, have a like blue green one with a purple rim.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know how
right.
I have two of them.
Yeah, you need to share the love, man. I'm looking for one.
Dude, yeah, if you want one, next time we meet up, we could do our super secret yo-yo contributor swap then, so that we can start reviewing this one very generously gifted to us yo-yo.
There's something, I don't know. There's something very pleasing about like that purple rim on
Yeah,
the blue or green. I don't know why. Something about that.
yeah, and I do think that that purple rimmed one was a special-ish edition where there was only 50 of them made or something like that. I was looking back at the old post in order to grab these ridiculous stats. Like I said before, 48.5 grams as a reference. We're looking at what, 65, 66 grams as the average for yo-yos these days, with it honestly kind of creeping up. I feel like yo-yos are getting heavier and heavier again.
That is really light. Yeah. And typically I don't like something that light because of the way it kind of feels like it's just falling out of your hand. But
Hmm.
but for some reason, I don't know. I really actually like this one. It's yeah, it kind of floats. It does kind of fall out of your hand, but there's something kind of, I don't know, like cute about it and just kind of fun about it. I don't know. I really liked it actually.
It surprises me because it does have all of the trademarks of a hyperlight yo-yo, and there have been a few. It's not the first. As much as Gentry Stein, by the way, is saying his Arrow, which is a pretty new like O-shaped yo-yo that he's doing, that's also, I think, in the realm of 50-ish grams. He was saying this is basically the first yo-yo that's gonna force you to learn more control, and it's great for practicing contests with. No, there have been other ultralight yo-yos before Gentry, but the GBP to me really does make you play in such a way where you have to be incredibly intentional with bouncing the yo from string to string. Otherwise, you're just going to massively overshoot. And on top of that, it also has a surprising amount of power. I think it is the little dinky rims that I was making fun of earlier, but it never feels like you binded quite right, or you think that your bind is quite loose when it comes back to your hand. But in reality, no, you toss it and it kind of could go through whatever you needed to go through. It is a little bit narrow by modern standards at 43.5 millimeters. But if you're doing crazy zoning with this yo-yo, you're already at a different level, in my opinion, because I can't imagine tossing something this light into the air, like across your neck or something like that, or doing a no look on it, because the margin of error where it goes a few millimeters to the wrong side or the other just seems so much more clear and apparent on this than a more traditionally weighted throw.
Yeah, if you toss this in the air, it might just fly away. It might just never come back. That's what I feel like when I'm
Yeah,
playing with this.
yeah, exactly. But like I said before, it really also kind of pushes the whole burden of actually I'm doing exactly what I need to do as a yo-yo. Just get good scrub if you can't control me. Back onto the player, and I think that that's very impressive because I would be a little bit worried about this yo-yo not having power, but no, it does everything it needs to do. It truly is a matter of can you dial in your play to the level of finesse needed or not. And that being the case makes me really positive on it because we've kind of talked about this before in regards to my rating system, but I have two questions I ask every yo-yo that comes through our doors. One is, what is it trying to do and how does it accomplish what it's trying to do? And then the second one is, what is its raw objective performance like? How powerful, how stable is it, et cetera, et cetera. And for me, the GBP, kind of similar to what we got out of the DIY last episode, exactly answers its mission statement. The DIY was the perfect desert island plastic yo-yo, and then the GBP is the most performant hyper lightweight yo-yo they could possibly have. And then it just becomes a matter of how well does it fulfill the second side, the performance side. And to me, I think the GBP pushes itself into A tier by virtue of it being shockingly performant for what it is. While to me, the reason why I put the DIY quite a bit lower was just I didn't think it had that raw performance to match.
I see. Yeah. I mean, would you say that this is a not a yo-yo that you'd want to put in the hands of a beginner or even intermediate player?
I think that if this was someone's first yo-yo, I would actually be very interested to see what would happen if they just stuck with it, because they might actually go to the opposite direction. Think about it. If you did nothing but play with a GBP for a year and then you were given a 65, 67 gram yo-yo, and you might actually say the opposite, where it's, wow, this yo-yo is so heavy. Sure, it feels powerful and stable, like I could do all my tricks, but it feels like I have to put so much more oomph behind each one of my elements, and that makes it hard to control. Could be the discussion on the other side, right? Like,
Yeah.
maybe things would just feel unresponsive in as a comparison. So, as a very first yo-yo, I don't think it's necessarily something I would say is terrible. Like, there are worse yo-yos, but it is such a weird specialty throw that anybody getting into the situation where it's either throwing a GBP or nothing probably would never happen, right?
That's a good point. Yeah, and I'm curious about that too, because kind of like you're saying, maybe it would force a beginner or less experienced player to have to play with kind of a more delicate touch, and I wonder if that would actually
Yeah,
aid them in fundamental development, like with their, like beginner and intermediate level tricks early on.
I was just commenting on Gentry when I was saying his whole thing about the era being the first yo-yo to really impact the way you practice for contests and provide more nuance is kind of silly gimmick speak, right? To appeal to the TikTok crowd. But there is an element of truth there, which is, yeah, these really light yo-yos do force you to play a little bit tighter, a little bit more controlled. And it probably would help somebody. It also just being 43.5 millimeters, which back in the day was not narrow, but now is considered narrow, might also help with that a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder if that makes it better or worse for doing like bigger hooks.
Ooh, I don't know. Like, it depends what you mean by bigger hooks.
Like any kind of hook past like just a regular hook, because I feel,
Oh, I see.
when
Yeah.
you're having to like spin your finger a lot in the air, for example, like sometimes I feel like having a more substantially weighted yo-yo, I feel like for my touch anyway, I feel like is better for that. I feel like it almost gets lost, quote unquote, sometimes if I'm playing with something super light and I'm trying to do like big hooks like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure if the narrowness and the lightness would help or hurt. I don't know any of the big hooks to really be able to tell you. So, JD, that's actually on my list. This year, I'm doing a lot of 5A, and I'm going to finally learn some of the meta slop, including hooks.
Oh, okay. And are you finally gonna shorten your string a little bit?
Dude, I did. It's actually a revelation. I am down because, as kind of a hint for something we're doing in a future episode, I've been buying some kind of fancy string, and not all of it comes in the length that I like. So I'm a little bit shorter because of that. And not gonna lie, I think it probably would have helped me not get second to last place at etc.
Well, string length, as I always talk about, is just something I always talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
So yeah, so I'd be curious next time we get together in person to compare string lengths and let's compare notes on strings.
Yeah, and hopefully we're going to actually get together in a much shorter fashion than what happened between episodes 2 and now episode 3. My apologies to everybody. I appreciate guys reaching out and asking where we were at. We are 100% trying to get back on track. I have fixed my recording setup, so hopefully we should be able to just pump these back out in the cadence we wanted to beforehand. Hopefully we should not have this long of a break ever again.
Yeah, we actually had a whole episode recorded, and
Oh, it was cooked.
unfortunately, we had some technical mishaps, and the episode file was corrupted beyond repair. But yeah, hopefully we don't have to go through that again.
Yeah, I have a whole new setup, so like a new audio interface and everything. So that should hopefully be cushioning the blow. And we also just did like 5 test recordings before hopping on for this episode. So let us know if you guys have any feedback on that front as well. We're just still trying to dial in our levels and get used to recording remote as well as in person. But also to quickly wrap us up before we get to the end of the day, I do have one last little bit of character development for you, JD.
What is it?
Our man Owen from Wicked Yo-Yos, shout out to him, by the way, for having his booth up there at Etc. Throw Series. He's gotten a longer string, dude. Your influence is working. You're fundamentally impacting the scene these days.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like to hear that. Yeah, I mean, man,
Yeah.
all of the throwers out there, guys, you know, if you don't film yourself, most of you probably film yourself because you're probably posting Instagram videos, but you should and take a look at what you're doing and always question, is this optimal, especially string length, because I see a lot of people throwing and I'm like, man, like for the type of stuff you're doing, like you're doing a lot of slacks, I'm like, man, that string length is too short. Or meta stuff, I'm like, oh, that string length is a pinch short. Or if they're trying to go for speed and their string is super long, I think like, man, you just shorten that string just a little bit, your speed is going to look a little more fluent, it's going to look a little more elegant. So yeah, I encourage all you guys to take a look at your string length. There might be a more optimal link to it.
And I also encourage everybody to drop us a follow there at our Instagram at Rejection Therapy Pod, as well as here on Spotify and wherever else you're actually listening to us. Subscribe to our YouTube and send JD some pictures of your grandma.
Yes, please. Thanks for tuning in to Rejection Therapy, y'all.
All right, we'll see you guys later. Bye.